Welcome, 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 everyone. We're at Deadly Art of Survival Magazine's Warrior of the Velvet Rope. I'm here with my co-hosts, Nathan and Jacob Ingram. On today's podcast, we have six-time world champion point fighter, world traveling instructor, Brooklyn boy, Bronx boy, Tention.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Yeah. How you doing tonight? You good, champ?
Yeah, I'm good. Yesterday we was at a tournament. This was just a busy weekend. Yesterday we was at a tournament in Philadelphia, and then Saturday we did a legacy brunch at my school for all the active black belts and their parents, and just showing gratitude. Parents that have been with us 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. Just going down the line. So just planning that. Then we have a belt test this week. So it's just been a crazy busy time for me this month, but it's a good thing.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it seems like you're always busy, man. I love that, man. I love watching the stuff that you post, and I love watching all the energy that you have with the kids. That's like amazing. I think so many instructors are inspired by you and your energy level, man. Let me ask you a question. What inspires you so much, man?
I want to be to them the instructor that I wish I had, right? So, and when I'm always thinking about it as a teacher, like I want somebody who's going to check me when I'm wrong, praise me when I'm right, hold me accountable, pay attention to details, make me do it over and over again if it's not correct. So I'm just trying to make sure that I am being to them what I would seek for if I was looking for an instructor as well. And I'm just trying to provide supreme customer service, and I'm being intentional about it.
Wow. Being intentional about it. I think that there's not enough of that emphasized by instructors nowadays. Mm-hmm. As you know, I come up from a totally different era.
Yes.
I started in '68, and it's when I was coming up, there was a lot of instructors were like you. But very, and you're physical too, but it was a different kind of physical. It was no equipment back then.
Yeah, definitely.
No fault of ours, And I watch you, and you have such an old soul because your energy and your love and passion for the martial arts, is wonderful. What I want to know personally, Native for everybody else, I want to know personally what age you started and what motivated you.
I started on 13. I always liked the Kung Fu movies, right? That was I remember playing in the park with my friends. And then I think those are the first seeds that was planted initially. The Shaw Brothers, that was my thing. 3 p.m. Channel 5, that was my thing. But as I got older, I was telling Glenn that, one day, first, I was telling my mother about a situation being in the mosque, growing up in the Nation of Islam. And then I remember writing my mother a Father's Day card because my father really wasn't around. He was in and out kind of guy. And she said, men make men. She said, I can make you a gentleman, but I can't make you a man. You need to be I'm not your father. You need to be around men. Right. That was the first. She said, you need to know the nuances of men. I can't give you that. That was the first part. And then when I told her about the situation, being in the mosque and stuff, she was like, one day you're going to be a leader. And I remember this part. She said, one day you're going to be a leader and a father, and all men need to know how to fight. And I said, I know how to fight. She said, no, you don't. And that was all the introduction to, the martial arts. That was the start of it.
Wow. So now, what was the first style? Because I know you studied several styles. I kind of did a little background check.
Yeah.
And I know you studied several styles. But I want you to talk about the styles and give us a little bit on your instructors in sequence and, one at a time. And the one that had, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but one that had the most effect on your life, the most significant effect.
Well, my first introduction into a martial arts school was this is so interesting, man. How me and Glenn was talking about this, how the universe works. 20 minutes ago, I just got a text message, but let me just say this part. Facebook Messenger. Master Little John was the first guy ever martial arts school I ever went into, and that's why I first saw Shabazz. That was the first time I ever saw Shabazz. And I was a kid, and it was basically a grown man's class, man. This was brutal with the hitting the arms and the legs, and my forearms was sore, and my chest, and it was my first introduction. I think after the first or second class, I couldn't walk to go to school the next day. It was crazy, and that immediately turned me off. I'm a kid. That was my first introduction. But before I go on, so I was only there for maybe a week. But the crazy thing is, even in that week, I still remember Shabazz. I don't know why. I just remember him in the class with the blue gym mat on the floor. A guy named Harold. I don't know why I know his name, but I remember Harold. And then it was Soke Little John. So I never engaged with Soke Little John ever again. And I saw him. I said hello. He definitely didn't remember me at all. Definitely didn't. And what's crazy, I just got me a text message from him, not a text message, messenger from Facebook that just said, would love to induct you into this year's Black Belt Hall of Fame. It's going to be in Fort Lauderdale. The way you teach reminds me of myself. Now, I don't know how I shall take that. He reminds me of you and, whatever. But it's just interesting that my very first instructor, he was my very first instructor. That was my first experience. Then my second experience is with a gentleman named Sharif Nasheed. Before his original name is Eddie Banks. He was my first instructor. That's who I got my black belt with. He played a tremendous role in my life, man. He had his own system named after him, the Nasheed system of martial arts. It was still, to me, he was very ahead of his time in the sense of everything was footwork, angles, staying on your toes, light on your feet, in and out. He really wasn't much of a traditionalist in that sense, but he had a big influence on me, a huge influence on me, because he became like a father figure to me. He was the male that I was yearning to look, the leadership, that masculine energy I was looking for. He first introduced me to tournaments. So he is absolutely a huge part of my foundation. If I had this, and then after that, I met Master Sabu, who Taekwondo in Brooklyn, the Humble School of Martial Arts. And he instilled confidence in me. Not to say that Professor didn't, but he was the second stage of instilling confidence in me, taught me work ethic. I really got my work ethic from him in the sense of he would have this pad that had a little circle on it. And he would say stuff like, we're going to throw 100 double rounds, hypothetically. And every time I missed it, right, I could hit, the target could be right here. If I hit it up here, down here, anywhere, he'll drop it by 10. I could be up to 85, we up to 75. If I miss it again, we up to 65. And it could take 2 hours. He did not care. He would be sitting there holding that pad for me. And it just taught me about doing the reps correctly, right? Rep 2 is correct. If my hands was down, we go up to 95. My hands was down. He's like, oh, you messed me up to 70. And anything. He was just that guy. So he definitely taught me work ethic. He breathed life in me because I kind of doubted myself a lot of times at that moment. So yeah, he had a huge influence on me. And then I also started training in jiu-jitsu. That also, my instructor, I had my original instructor was a guy named Justin Garcia. And then I left that school. I really didn't agree. Well, I felt like there were some things that he had said to me that I didn't appreciate. He later apologized for it. but that led me to another instructor named Francisco Pacheco and BJJ, and finally a guy named Andre Monetario, who was my jiu-jitsu instructor, who took over after Francisco left. Those guys, man, those guys opened my mind up into different ranges and understanding positions. And honestly, as crazy as this may sound, the jiu-jitsu made my karate better, right? Wow. And then the karate made my jiu-jitsu better. It kind of poured into each other, right? It wasn't two different things. It made me understand the concepts of fighting even more to another level. I think just having those ranges. And then I trained with Soke Hassan. And it sounds like I trained with, with a lot of people, but I just kept evolving, right? My ideas and the thing with me is that I always look for what I didn't have. Like I always try to plug my holes, So I started training with Soke Hassan, and that again was another experience of, understanding, close range and locks and movement, and it just also added on to, I think, it just really showed me that the concepts are all the same. It's just how you apply them in the approach and the ranges that you need it in. So, but I have all of my instructors with me. I do things probably a little different than them, but they all contribute to who I am to this day.
Wow. Wow.
Was there a point where you realized this is what I want to do as far as martial arts?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I didn't have a school yet, and I had these 5 kids. My instructor Sharif Nasheed, he had asked me to teach a class in the YMCA one time, and that program had closed down due to funding. And it was these 5 kids from Long Island, 6 kids from Long Island that they would follow me everywhere I went. So I was going to a tournament in Ocean State in Rhode Island. I remember this. This is 2002. I was going to a tournament, and I told them that I would meet them Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. So I was at the tournament, and I won the tournament. I won grand. And I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning just to drive back home to keep my word that I would meet these kids, right? And it was that moment I said, there's nothing in the world that I would get up for this early and don't mind doing it, right? Doesn't mean I always want to do it, right? But if I had to do anything when I didn't feel like it, it would be definitely this. Like I could be at somebody's job, tell me, how may I help you, right? I'll take your next order. It was when I saw that it did not bother me. That's when I knew at that moment, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Because I never felt away with anything before.
Did you have a Batmobile then?
No, I had no Batmobile at that moment. What's funny is I caught a ride with Lee Ireland on the way back on. So I had no Batmobile.
I need to ask you this, and because I get asked this all the time. Well, lately, since everybody know that you're going on the cover of Deadly Artist Bible, so now everybody wants to know more about you. Not that they didn't before, but I guess they're more open about it now. And I want to ask you, if you had to estimate how many championships you've won, give me a count. Give us a number.
I won a lot of stuff, man. A couple of hundred. I wouldn't say no thousands like that, but definitely a couple of hundred. The thing about me is that I went to like a lot of big events. More, my locals was early in my career, and then I would go just to big internationals, fighting guys from all over. So maybe if I did locals, I'd probably have those big numbers like some of these guys do, but
yeah,
definitely a couple hundred. I've fought a lot of guys, man, from all over, on a big stage. So yeah, I would say I can honestly tell. I wouldn't even say 500, nothing like that, because they were big events. It's not 500 big events,
Right.
But I'll say at least 200, at least I would say,
Right. Okay. Now, tough question.
Yes.
Who who do you consider your toughest opponent?
Not a tough question in a sense because there were different stages of my development. So I always had a Joe Frazier. Right? There was always a Joe Frazier in my life. So the first guy that gave me a hard time, well, I don't want to say hard time because they was beating me, right? There was guys that were beating me because I was like I was telling Glenn, Dre Fontenay beat me like 4 times, right? But he beat me in the stage of year 1, year 2 of me getting my black belt. I might have had 5 fights, and he still likes to hang on to that. Let me pause this for 1 second. I want to say this. So, Glenn, remember I was telling you about the comment that I said you would out-whip his ass right now and all? Don't even write that. You know why? Let me just say this to you. I was
You
watching
realize
him.
this is live, right? This is all going to be in it.
Okay, well, you could say, okay, well, I was watching a video of him in the hallway teaching.
Yes.
There's a man that is really falling from grace. It's not even worth me kicking him right. It's not even, a lion hunts. If this lion is going to hunt, it's going to hunt an animal that could just really give it a run. It's not even worth me talking about this dude, man. It's really not. I don't even want to say nothing about him. Good or bad, I don't even want to say it. It's not even worth it. I feel sorry for the dude, to be honest with you. I don't know whatever that means, but okay. So, but he was the guy that beat me early. And he never acknowledged that he beat me early. He'll use semantics and say I beat Jotty, but he didn't beat Jotty, right? He beat Bruce Wayne. I didn't become Batman yet, right? So he didn't beat that guy. He didn't beat the best version of me. But the first guy that gave me a really hard time was Bobby. It was a guy first named Carlos Flowers. He was the first guy. He beat me, and then I had to figure that out. Then I beat him. This is locally first, right? Then I had to fight Bobby Harris, which was like a Philly legend, and he beat me. And then he beat me, and he would do this every time he saw me: 1-0, 1-0. Dude, the dude's kicks was amazing. 1-0, 1-0, and he would do that for you because we never ran into each other again. And then I finally beat him, and then I was like, "Hey, it's 1-1 now, right?" But see, me as a competitor, I'm not doing even with you. I don't tolerate. I got to dominate. So I beat him again. Then I beat him again. And I beat him again. And then I beat him wide. Like I'm running out of fingers and toes at this stage. How many times I beat him, right? I don't say any of this to be arrogant. I just tell the truth. So, but I needed those guys to really get me to the next level. Then I met the Brian Roof guy, as I was telling you, Glenn, who beat me. It was him and John Payton. John Payton, Billy Blink's top student. He was a really good fighter, counter fighter. He would shake his head and go, "Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better." He would always say that. And he beat me 2 or 3 times, and I was kind of coming into my own. But I had to get over that fence. I've beaten all of those guys, right? Then it was a guy named. Then me and Raymond Daniels always had a back and forth. Then it was Jason Borelli. He was another guy from Chicago. Larry Texas too. That was a problem. But I've been around. You gotta remember, I was fighting black belt men's 93, 94, and then retired in 2014. So I was in new generations, right? I was always in a new generation of they fought different. It was a little faster. And I was the older dude out the group, but nobody knew I was older because I think the way I carried myself, and I didn't even realize I was that much older than them until now, right? But there's always a new generation. And I was a guy that always stood out in all those generations. Like from the guys in the late 90s, early 2000s, 2010s, 15s, and I'm winning overall grand and I'm 40 years old at the big nationals. And those guys like, those guys would be like, these are young fighters, talented. They'll be like, this don't make no sense, Jotty. And so I had a couple of generations, but there was a guy named, if I just say one person that frustrated me the most was a guy named Brian Plimple from South Carolina. He used to frustrate me. But, you eventually figure out that puzzle too, right? So, but yeah, he definitely used to frustrate me too. Big time.
Okay. Glenn?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes.
We're going to start with just the martial arts here. If you could go back in time or forward in whatever it is, who would you want to pit yourself against and say, I beat him?
Me being who I am, like me being Johnny,
Yeah.
I would have loved to have fought Mafia Holloway. I would love to have fought Jerry, Mafia Holloway, Nasty Anderson, absolutely him for sure. Yeah, I would have loved to have fought those guys, man. Those legends, Nasty Mafia Holloway, Nasty Anderson, Bill Wallace. I would have absolutely loved. Let me be respectful. I would have loved to have fought Bill Wallace. yeah, definitely.
But that one we can set up right now.
Man, you listen, man. I be playing with my food doing that right now.
Wow. So
have you ever met? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Have you ever met Bill Wallace?
Yeah, I met him. I waved at these guys. You know, what's funny is he was judging me at a tournament in Orlando, Florida, and I was fighting this guy. And the guy, I won the match, but this guy threw a kick, the side kick at me, and the side kick was like
Your volume is off.
Oh, my volume? Okay.
Okay, there you go. We're back.
All right, so I was fighting a guy in Florida, and I won the match, but the guy was a little faster to do. He threw a side kick, and the side kick was like a chamber. It was like a little short little kick. And Bill Wallace had called the kick. So I walk over to him and I go, in the middle of the match, I'm like, you should be ashamed of yourself calling a chamber as a kick, and you're supposed to know better. He was so mad that I said that to him. But I didn't care. I was just like, you should know better. And that was the last time we never engaged, but he was pissed off at me. He had that look like he wanted to say something. And I was just like, so what? But yeah. So I never really fraternized with a lot of guys. I just kind of be respectful and say hello and keep moving.
Okay. Now I want to ask you something as we talked about the fighting and you gave us a brief summary of your take on it, the guys that you fought and I noticed that when you talk about guys, even though some people may feel a certain way, you could tell the respect that you have for these guys. And I like the journey that you took,
Mm-hmm.
Wherein it was all about learning,
Yes.
to get there. That's very inspirational, man. As an instructor myself, and I don't know how many years, probably like I've been teaching about 51 years now, but I've been in martial arts about 56 years. I noticed that you have a very good knack for motivating your kids, your students. When I tell you, I'm so impressed by that. I think all of us here are impressed by your ability just to motivate, not only just your students, just people in the way it's like you're always improvising. It's nothing that everything just seems to come natural to you.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when I meet a person like that, they take after somebody, whether it's your mom, because I see she's a big influence in your life.
Yeah.
And where do you think that comes from?
Oh, I think it's sincere. I don't tell somebody put a camera on. It's somebody catch me doing what I'm doing. But I think that I think being in the mosque is a huge part of that. But also my mother, because my mother has a way of cursing you out without ever cursing, right? She has a way of kicking your butt gracefully, right? I remember, as an example, one time telling her, I didn't feel appreciated in a certain situation. I was like, I don't really feel appreciated. And I keep explaining to these people and they not hearing. And she says, brother, that's how she talks to me. She says, brother, let me ask you a question. Because I'm explaining to her, these people are not understanding what I'm trying to do. And she said, brother, let me ask you a question. If God made them blind, who in the hell are you to make them see? There are some people in this world that you have to leave blind, and you trying to bring light to people that God made them blind. Leave them blind. And I just said, I'm like, oh, here she go, dropping these jewels on me again. Now, whatever your beliefs are, you could understand basically go where you celebrate it and not tolerate it. And she would always hit me with this, even as a kid, I remember just another time of me complaining. I vent to her, and she said, well, you gotta get the job done regardless. And I was like, yeah, but she said, listen, brother, You're going to rise above your emotions. This is what she said. No, she said, you know, Johnny, there's a system in this world. The sun goes up, the sun goes down. The earth spins at 1,037 1/3 mile per hour. It never speeds up, nor does it slow down. She said, that is a system. It's not based on your feelings. It's not based on how you woke up that day. It is a system. So the point I'm going to ask you, brother, is you're going to rise above your emotions into the thinking of God, or you're going to be complaining? Because the system doesn't care how you feel. This is how the world works. See, she always would throw that at me all the time as a kid. So when I'm talking, this is the language that was in my ear for years. And it's just me just regurgitating it back in my form of martial arts. That's all it is. It's just my childhood. Just my mother always planted seeds on me, always. So it's just me I see myself and my mother, I see my mother in me. When I say things sometimes, I'm like, that's my mother. So definitely her wisdom, her grace with it, her poise, it has definitely impacted me.
She did a great job,
I appreciate that.
Every time I watch stuff, when you don't know I'm watching you because I'm trying to pick up stuff from you.
I appreciate that coming from you.
No, really, I always tell people this. My mom and dad, my mom didn't want me in martial arts. My dad thought I was going to grow up to be a little softy. So he said, no, I want that boy to go in there and get his butt whooped, and so he could be a man. Yeah. And I was a mommy's boy, and not calling you that, but there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely. That's my girl.
We learn to respect women. Any man that loves his mother will respect a woman. And any man that has a problem with his mother, I have a problem with him. Yes, so, and I say that humbly, man. I watch how you are with the children, and I knew that side of you was from your mom without even getting deeper into it. Because I see the relationship you have with her. You let it be seen. That's beautiful to me because I lost my mom, and I was the last one to see her. And I had a lot of her ways, mainly her temper. But my father was a real mild guy. My mom, I had her temper. So I said all of that to say, what is next for you? And what do you envision being next for you when it comes for these children? Do you have a greater outlook? Do you see later on in the future where you want to be with them, what you want to do, how you want to do it? Because everybody seems to see you and they think that it's, here's Johnny Tention, he got it all going on, and I'm one of them. So I want, what is the next level, if there is, what is the next level for Johnny Tention?
Well, the next level is that I want him to be able to grow up in the martial art class, the school, the dojo. So I have to provide an avenue for that to happen. So, the lessons is all around us. I believe that. There's a young lady, I call her Lemonade. Her name is Julia, but I call her Lemonade. And I heard her say, you know what, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to work for Sensei. And I knew it was my obligation and duty to create an environment where I'm able to let them have an avenue where they can make this forever for them. Well, I don't have to lose them to FedEx and UPS, and I can hire these kids that I mentored for years and create that environment for them. So in that, I created a leadership team where I speak about being an entrepreneur. We have to read books. We get together weekly, bi-weekly, just them and as a group. I have about 18 to 20 of them. And these kids are 12 years old, man. And the level of instruction and customer service, that how to answer the phone, how to greet a person, how to talk to a parent, how to build rapport, say their name, smile, shake a hand, be kind intentionally. It's not just the punching and kicking. That's what I was taught. But now I'm teaching them how to be school owners, that I can open up another 2 schools, right? I don't have to wait for somebody to be a 5th Dan or for them to run a school, understand how to teach, be kind to people intentionally, have great customer service, and I can instill these into these young people right now. And even if they don't do it, it would set them up for success in whatever endeavor they choose to do. But I have children in my school who are young and adults who want to be TCK school owners, And that's my next venture, is to make those things happen.
It sounds like your interaction with these kids or even adults is more than just teaching them how to tentatively open a school. Is teaching them how to be good human beings.
Yes, sir.
It goes a lot further than just, like you said, the kicking and punching. You're teaching them manners, which I think in nowadays that most people are just not. It's like, their kids are growing and they're not guiding them. It would seem.
Yes.
Nathan knows this as well. We've been running nightclubs. Between the two of us, we've got over 60 years of experience in running nightclubs, working in them and stuff. And like, I can tell you from my own point of view, societally, things have just gotten worse with their actions, much, much worse over the years. And I'm still kind of in it, like at the end stages of it all. Nathan had stopped many years ago, but it's gotten terrible. And you should, no one ever wants to say, hey, pat yourself on the back, but you really need to pat yourself on the back on that one.
Man, I appreciate it. It's like this, sometimes when you're doing the work, you don't really get to see it. It's like a marathon runner doesn't pick up a coin while he's running, but she's running. You just in that. I'm just running right now, and I'm trying to, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I'm not trying to be that instructor, man, who doesn't understand people, relationships, allies. I'm trying to be the instructor that I would want, sincerely. And I'm just trying to give these kids an opportunity to allow their passion to be able to feed their families, right? And we lose so many of that because we don't produce the next generation. We say we do, but we don't. Because it's always, you talk about this, Glenn, it's always about the grandmaster, right? And you can always tell a good farmer by the product that he or she produces, the crop. And I'm just trying to make more school owners. I don't want it to die with me. I'm getting older. Old men for counsel, young men for war. I need these young people to be able to compete, travel, and have the school provide everything that they need. So I'm just trying to reproduce myself in younger bodies, trying to make them better, my shortcomings, things I wish somebody would have told me. And that's just what I'm trying to do. And I want to be able to have a few TCKs around the country. So that's what I'm working at right now. That's my next stage in life.
There was a video on Facebook. I think I saw it early this morning. You were talking to a young girl who was in the midst of fighting. Was that your daughter?
My daughter. Yes, that's my daughter, Zori.
Yeah. Good job. Good job, Dad.
That.
No, really, good job.
I appreciate that.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make her enjoy competition. I don't bring it up at home. I don't even talk about karate at home. It's one of the mistakes that I made was that I always was their sensei at home, right? But you ain't do this, and you should have did this, and when that person did this, you should have kicked, you should have faked. And I'm like, I realized they don't need their instructor at home; they need their father, right? So I make sure that when I'm doing martial arts with her, I'm doing martial arts with her, and I don't baby her, but I always show her compassion in that. And when I'm at home, you my daughter, man. We ain't talking about that. I love you. I love the way you compete. The ride home from a tournament has made more kids quit. The ride home from a tournament has made more kids quit than anything. These parents will run these kids out your home school by the expectations of making everything about a tournament and placing value on the tournament instead of the lessons of dealing with success and staying humble, learning what it is to deal with disappointment, learning what it is to have goals, work ethic. That's all the lesson I want. That's all I want. I don't care about the rest of it. If you have fun and you love it, you're going to keep doing it. And if you keep doing it, you're going to get better from it. And the rest will do it for itself. But I just want my daughter to see her father when she needs to see her father and see her instructor when she needs to see her instructor. And I want to make a clear distinction between the two of them. And that's something that I had to learn from trial and error with my oldest one of always being his sensei and never his father. So you learn, like I said, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I'm always been the type of person that just keeps wanting to grow. I'm constantly looking for that growth, man, in myself as an individual. And the more I grow, the more books I read, it makes me a better person. And if it makes me a better person, it makes me a better instructor. Wherever you go, you take yourself with you. So I'm just trying to make myself the best version of myself as well.
Well, you know, we tip our hats to you, and I know the whole martial arts world do, and does. And I want to say, I really want to say that we're really blessed to have you in the martial arts world, a guy like you, and I don't think anybody should take it for granted that you live. You said something earlier where you not in the podcast, but on Facebook, and it was about you. I don't remember how you articulated it, man, but it was very similar to you just want to leave a good impression on the people, in this life that you live. And I think in martial arts as instructors, and I know you probably see a lot of stuff I post, I think that martial arts instructors have become so selfish, so self-centered, so egotistical, and it's all about them and their grandmastership and all this baloney. They forget to be teachers. They forget to be leaders. They forget to be compassionate. And they forget that what the example that we have to show them, our students and people, is what they write on their walls: discipline, respect, honor. But a lot of them are not living by this code. So I said all of that to say you are, and we appreciate you, man. And having you on the cover of the Deadly Art of Survival is such an honor. Not because of your name and who you are, but it's because of your name and who you are. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And yes. What you do, when we got the opportunity to get you on there, that was a no-brainer for us, because it brings so much credibility to our magazine, not monetarily, not for show, but for show. Just
get it. Yes.
To show the world, man, the type of martial artists that graced the cover of our magazine. I won't settle for less. And when we did settle for less, I took them right off the cover.
Yeah.
I took them, snatched them right off the cover. I said, "Yeah, I'm having this. You want to be a clown? This is not the circus you want to belong."
Yes, sir.
You understand? This is,
yes, sir.
You be a clown on your own time. But in the martial arts world, in our magazine, we want instructors of integrity and honor, and you bring that to the table. And I don't want to over talk you because you said so much, but I do want to give you your flowers while you're alive, man, and say thank you, man. And I mean this from my heart. Forget about this podcast and everything. I mean this from watching you. We talk about you consistently, about you being a man of integrity, man. And don't ever change, man. I don't have to tell you that. You already know that. When I say don't change, I mean thank you.
I know what you mean. I appreciate it. I really do. If I'm gonna be honest with you, me and you spoke a while ago, and when I was like about the magazine, I was like, I don't really, I don't look for the validation because I feel like I'm somebody's father, somebody's son, somebody's instructor, right? But I realized that sometimes it's bigger than you, right? There's other people that need to hear.
Yeah.
The truth runs a marathon, lies run sprints. And I think that the magazine, because I see, sometimes you don't realize, like I said, you just doing it. I see how my parents light up. I see how my mother wants, this is my son, look at my son. See how my parents are like, when I see people from all over the country sending me inboxes, hey, Jody, when is this coming out? And then I have instructors that I have never spoke to before in my life talking to me now. And then there's also another group of, I would say, older martial artists that I probably had a disconnect from that are all, listen, I said, I speak to Shabazz. I'm supposed to talk tomorrow. I never spoke to Shabazz like this. This is like us talking, just these are the things that it brings together, that it magnifies whoever you are, right? If you're an asshole, you're a big asshole with the magazine. You're a good person, you're a better person because you could extend your influences to more people. But I just, just real fast, I don't want to be long-winded.
Take your time.
I used to have this green belt test, right? In my school. And in the green belt test, like, you had to fight. Like, let me make it very clear. I have I don't do points necessarily in my school. I always just spar. And then I go to tournament and do my rules, right? So this green belt test, man, you get beat up, right? You get your ass whipped, right? So I'm in a meeting, right? I'm doing therapy at this time. I think therapy is a wonderful thing. I just said, I always do seminars for different school owners. I said, I need to do a seminar for myself. Let me try this therapy thing out. I go to therapy. Again, I'm always looking to evolve, right? And I'm talking to the therapist, and she's going back and forth. She's asking me questions about my childhood, about martial arts, and things came up that I never thought would have came up. And I was explaining to her that I remember being the only kid in my class and taking my green belt test. And Professor Nasheed put me in the corner with two big grown police officer, correction officer. He's like, fight your way out. And they tore me up, right? I'm 13, 14, 15, maybe. I'm getting tore up. And I remember him giving me my green belt, and I never forgot this. He said, I'm disappointed in y'all. I thought you would have done better. But he gave my green belt. That sat with me, still sits with me, because I could tell you it clearly in my head. Fast forward. So the green belt test is coming up. And my black belt instructor's like, yeah, green belt test is coming up. And they all rubbing their hands together. We're going to tear these kids up. And I'm like, listen, we're not doing that no more. And they was like, what do you mean? The whole room. What do you mean we're not doing that no more? I had to go through it. I said, when I think about it, I'm passing my trauma on. I got my ass whipped. And I remember getting my green belt. And I'm trying to establish that same mentality to them. And I was like, I'm doing it out of trauma. And I was like, I'm not doing that no more. Because I don't remember anybody after me going through that test like that. It was only me. He had that test just for me, for whatever his reasons, right? But I'm passing down trauma in the name, and I'm naming it tradition. I'm naming it this, what I had to go through, this what you got to go through. And I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. And I say all that to say is that as instructors, we have to be careful of what we pass down. I'm not talking about the soft, and I want to be very clear, that thin line. But we have to be careful of what we pass down in the name of, and ask what's really needed, and what the reason that we're doing it for. And it just can't just because our teacher did it. Like, we really have to ask ourselves these things. And I just don't want to be that. I want to be a good instructor. I want to be a strong instructor. I want to be fair and just. I want them to work hard. It has to be some kind of pain involved, because at the end of that is success. But I want to make sure what I'm passing down. And I constantly just reevaluate all the time. Things that I've done or doing, and what could be better ways. And I think in education, you're supposed to do that. And I think sometimes as instructors, we forget that we are supposed to be leaders in education. And we sit on what happened 35 years ago. You wouldn't go to a doctor that didn't get a certification in the last 35 years. You wouldn't fly on a plane with a pilot who didn't fly who only went on you wouldn't get on a plane that was 35 years old. So why would I go with instruction like that never was updated or fixed, or methods? And I think we have a lot of growing up to do in the martial arts. It's almost like, just because you graduated from college doesn't mean you should have your own college. These guys think because they black belts and they got certain degrees, they should have their own schools, which is madness.
Yes.
It's Ronins just running around out here doing what they want to do.
Yes.
And this, unfortunately, what we did. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not one of those guys, man.
Right. Wow. Good lesson, man. Jacob?
I think that's a wrap.
Actually, I want to say one thing before we're done. I have two friends of mine who I was a bouncer with for 20 years. Both of them are incredible martial artists. One is named, you may know them both, Alex Echeverria.
Yes.
And the other one is Cesar Cicero. Two dear friends of mine. I'm 58. Caesar's in his 50s. Alex is now in his 50s as well. So these are the only two guys when it comes to the martial arts, my personal friends. I say, hey, look, I'm working on Jati, or I'm working on this, or I'm working on that. They know what's coming up because I tell them. These are my close friends. They keep it to themselves. Yeah. So I had said to Caesar, we were chatting today on the phone, and I said to him, by the way, I'm doing Jati Tention. So this is what he wrote. This is a grown man. This is not some 15-year-old.
I don't think I know him. I don't think I know him either.
Okay, well, he knows you. He says, I saw that. I like him a lot. He marches to the beat of his own drum. I enjoy following him on social media. Other than his superb skill, he really drops a lot of gems and keeps it 100. One of my favorite martial artists. This guy can fight. This guy is a real martial artist. He hasn't stopped. He continues. He's a great guy. He's a beautiful human being. And he had that to say about you. You may not remember him, but maybe, and I know he's met you maybe once, twice.
Maybe
I
his
don't
face.
know,
Maybe his face.
Yeah. But regardless, this is a grown man. This is an adult, not some, starry-eyed kid going, oh my God, he said that about you tonight, not more than 2 hours ago. That says a lot to me about you and about him. It's that when he says something so positive, I listen. Because not that he doesn't give it out, but he always gives it out. And I don't like the term. He always gives it out 100 all the time. So coming from him, that's a lot. You may not realize it, but it is. It really is.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think that's the biggest compliment, that when your peers and people who are legit can speak for you, I think those are the most important things, the most important compliments. So I appreciate that. And again, I really appreciate this platform, because this is something, honestly, I would have just been like, okay, I think sometimes, my girlfriend tells me that sometimes I play too low key sometimes, right? And I'm just conscious of me not trying to be these guys. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. Ingram. You know what I'm talking about. I'm just not trying to be these guys, right? So I really appreciate, man, the love, man. I really appreciate the conversations I've been having since you guys made that announcement. And I'm just excited about it. I really am.
Let me say this real quick. This is the end. I'm gonna end it with this. Let me tell you something about legacies. Legacies and history go together hand in hand. And everything that you say that you want these kids to remember, they can't remember if they can't read it about. They can't remember if they can't pick up a book and see you. This is important to me. That's why this magazine is we have this magazine. We need, we all gonna die. We all gonna be gone. Absolutely. Don't let that scare anybody. That's paradise.
Me and Glenn is on the same page. We ain't scared.
Yes. but you can rest assured, if anything happens to you, there will be a magazine with your picture on the cover saying what you've done, your story, telling people from your words what you've done, what you've experienced. To me, that's the blessings of our magazine. That's the blessings of having you on the cover, because you could have been on the cover. You and I had a conversation a long time ago.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't want to put it out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You could have been a couple other magazines. And I was glad when you told me you turned it down. I was glad, because I knew I had envisioned what was this day where we was gonna have you on the cover of our magazine, and you would okay it, because now the story of the mighty Johnny Tention, Batman, is going to be told through the Deadly Art of Survival, and your legacy is going to be forever. You could destroy your phone, and throw it at the garbage and break and then lose it on the train, but you'll go home and that magazine will be right there.
Yes,
for your children, man, for your students, man. For your students, they deserve it, man. They deserve to be able to read your story, brother. And the scientist that you are in the martial arts, and I mean that affectionately, the scientist and the mentor that you are to the martial arts world. You're special. With that being said, God bless you, man.
Thank you, brother.
That work. And I can't wait to see the look on the faces when I go around making appearances with your cover in my hand.
I appreciate the platform. I really do. And and you got me hanging out with Shabazz and Glenn now. So
ain't he a good brother?
I got some new brothers now.
Man, Shabazz is a good brother. All our representatives are good, man.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to the DOS representatives, man, that make our magazine what it is and put people like you in. God bless you, man. I think that's pretty much a wrap for us, man. And thank you for this special night. I learned so much from you, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Mr. Clay, when I'm getting a phone call from you.
Soon. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yes,
I got other people. I'm working on it.
I know no rush. I'm just making sure I'm on your timeline.
Yeah, and this is the other thing. We haven't normally said this, guys, but we want to thank everybody out there that watches our podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That takes the time to sit here and watch our guests for an hour. Who
Right.
read our magazines, some people are just buying the magazines because they know it's a collector's item. They're
Right.
not big on reading, and I get it. Everything nowadays is a 45-second video. So we have a lot of people out there that are following us just because they're following us.
Yeah.
And like Nathan said, this magazine, it's doing great things, and I think we're putting the best people out there on the covers.
Yeah.
And